6. Norik did not leave his cabin again until the time came to retrieve his morning meal. No one spoke to him, especially Captain Costco, who had not forgiven his passenger for leaving the mess near the rail. Norik actually appreciated the lack of conversation, wanting nothing to slow his return to the safety of his room. He had slept fitfully during the night, not only haunted by dreams of Bartek's glory, but now also dread images of Fotson's vengeful spirit come to claim him. Not until the Hawks fighter finally set sail did the veteran fighter calm at all. Out on the sea, troubled spirits could certainly not pursue him. In fact, as the ship pushed out onto the stormy waters, it finally began to sound reasonable to Norik that he had imagined the dreadful vision, that what he had taken for Fotson had either been but another Vigere, for certainly the port lay near enough to the eastern lands, or the complete figment of his own troubled mind. The latter seemed more and more likely. After all, Norik had been both physically and mentally torn apart by the demands of the cursed armor. The memories, not only the tomb, but the slaughter at the inn remained with him. In addition, the warlord's suit had pushed his endurance to the limits and beyond, forcing the soldier to traverse a rough landscape without hardly any rest, and at a pace that would have killed many men, if not for the fact that the only part of the effort had been his own. Norik suspected that he would have definitely had died along the way. The waves grew choppier as the Hawks fired entered the deep waters. With each groan of the hull, Norik became more and more convinced that at some point the sea would crush the worn ship like tinder. Yet, somehow, the Hawks fire continued on, riding one wave to the next. In addition, for all their motley outer appearance, Captain Costco and his crew proved quite adept in managing the vessel. They scurried up the ropes, raced across the decks, ever keeping their ship ready to meet the elements. What they could not entirely keep at bay, though, was the storm. It struck but a few hours out. The sky blackened and lightning flashed all about. The winds picked up, bending the masts and trying to rip the sails. Norik, who had finally stepped out, quickly gripped the rail as the sea tossed the Hawk's fire to the side. "Starboard!" called Casco from the deck. "Starboard!" The man at the wheel worked to obey, but wind and water battled against him. A second crew member came to his aid, the pair managing to fulfill the captain's orders after great effort. Rain at last fell, a torrent that forced Norik back into the cabin. Not only did he know nothing about sailing, but clad in armor, he risked his life every time he neared the rail. It would take only one strong wave to toss him over the side. A soil lantern swinging violently from the ceiling tried desperately to keep the cabin illuminated. Norik planted himself on the inside corner of the bunk and tried to think. He had not yet completely given up hope of escaping the cursed armor, but so far had no idea as what to do. It would require powerful sorcery, and he knew no one with such abilities. If only he had asked Watson. The memory of what he had thought he had seen on the dock returned full-blown, sending renewed chills through Norik. Best to forget about Watson, and Satan too. They were dead. Night came, and still the storm did not abate. Norik forced himself down to the mess, where he noticed for the first time some of the crew eyeing him with more than disinterest or disdain. Now a few gazes seemed almost hostile, and yet frightened. Nork had no doubt that it had to do with the armor. Who was he? They must be wondering. The armor spoke of power, of command. Why did such as one as he travel on a miserable vessel such as the Hawksfire? Again, he took his meal to the cabin, preferring the solitary atmosphere. This time he found the food slightly more palatable than perhaps the previous meals had just burned away his tongue. Nork devoured it, then fell back and tried to go to sleep. He did not look forward to sleep, but the dreams of Bartek and the nightmares surrounding the tomb not at all enticements. However, exhaustion quickly set in, and as the veteran campaigner, Norik Visceran knew better than to try to fight it. Even the violent rocking of the Hawksfire could not keep his eyes from closing.
It would be nice to rest,
Came a crackling yet still familiar voice.
but after all, they say no rest for the wicked, hey?
Nork bolted to his feet, eyes wide. Barely any light shone from the lantern, but even with what little he had, the soldier could see that no one else stood in the room.
Damn.
Another nightmare. Staring at the lantern, Nork realized that he must have fallen asleep without realizing it. The voice had been in his head. Nowhere else. The voice of a comrade, now lost. Satan's voice. Thunder crashed. The Hawksfire shivered. Nork gripped the side of the cot, then stared to ease himself back into it.
You should have listened to Flotsam, Nork. Now it may be too late.
He froze where he was, gaze shifting to the door.
Come to us, friend. Come to Flotsam and me.
Nork strained. Satan? No reply, but some of the planks just outside the cabin creaked as if someone walked upon them and paused now before his door. Is someone out there? The Hawksfire dipped, nearly sending him tumbling. Nork flattened himself against the wall, eyes never leaving the doorway. Had he imagined Trist's crackling, laboring voice? The days since the horror of the tomb had tested the veteran's nerve more than any battle in which he had fought. Yet still something within urged Nork toward the door. Most likely, when he opened it, there would be nothing. Satan and the Vajera could not be out there, awaiting the friend who had so terribly murdered them. Such things did not happen save in tales spoken in whispers around late-night campfires. But such things as the dreadful armor Nork wore did not happen outside of those tales either. Again the planks creaked. Nork gritted his teeth, reached toward the latch. The gauntleted hand suddenly twitched and began to glow a sinister red. Nork drew the glove back, watching in wonder as the glow now faded. He reached forward once more, but this time nothing happened. Steeling himself, Nork undid the latch and swung open the door. Rain and wind battered him, but no fearsome shade stood outside the cabin. Bony finger outstretched in condemnation. Seizing his cloak, Nork hurried outside, his gaze immediately shifting first to the left, then the right. Toward the bow, he saw the dim shapes of men struggling to keep the sails in order, but of the supposed phantoms he found no trace. The hard trampling of feet made him look in the direction of the stern again, where he saw one of Casco's men running toward the bow. The men would have paused Nork without a glance, but the soldier seized him, ignoring the sailor's fierce glare. He shouted, Did you see anyone out here before you? Anyone standing by my cabin? The sailor spat something in another tongue, then pulled away from Norik as if he was touched by a leper. Norik watched the man run off, then shift his own attention to the rail. A notion filled his head that he had found entirely ludicrous, but still it made him risk fate by actually stepping to the edge and peering over the side. Blades shattered unceasingly against the time-worn hull of the Hawksfire, doing their best to seem to pound through the wood and send the vessel and its occupants to the watery dooms. The sea beyond churned wildly, sometimes rising so high that Norik had trouble seeing the heavens. But of this supposed visitor he saw no sign. No vengeful ghoul clung to the side of the hole. The unforgiving shades of Sade and Trist and Flotsam had not, after all, been standing outside his cabin door. He had imagined them, just as he had first believed.
You! What you do out? Inside! Inside!
The hobbling form of Captain Costco closed in on Norik from the bow. Casco seemed completely outraged that his sole passenger had dared the elements. Norik doubted that it had to do with concern for the veteran's well-being. As with the rest of the crew, a hint of fright tinged Casco's angry words.
What is it? What's wrong?
Wrong? The cadaverous mariner barked back.
Wrong? Nothing wrong. Back to cabin. Storm outside. You fool.
Half tempted to respond, yes, to Casco's question, Norik did not bother to argue with the man. With the crippled mariner watching, he returned to the cabin, closing the door on Casco's scowling visage. After a moment, Norik heard him stumble away. The thought of trying to fall asleep again did not at all appeal to Norik, but he nonetheless tried. At first, questions raced through his thoughts, all but one of which the veteran could answer. That lone question concerned the Crimson Gauntlet and why it had begun to glow just prior to his going outside to search. If no danger had lurked beyond the door, what reason would the armor have for such protective measure? True, it had not seized control of him, but still his actions had appeared to have purpose. Norik fell asleep again, still pondering the suit's reaction. He did not stir again until a crack of thunder that shook the cabin nearly caused him to tumble out of his makeshift bunk. Disoriented, the soldier tried and failed to calculate just how long he had been asleep. The storm still blew strong, which to Norik meant that it could not have been more than a few scant hours. Rarely had a storm that he had suffered through lasted more than a day, although he supposed that on high sea it could be different. Arms and legs stiff, Norik stretched and tried to go back to his slumber. A long, crackling sound far different from thunder again brought him to his feet. He recognized that sound, even if he had not heard it often. It had been the sound of wood breaking. And on a ship in the midst of a wild storm that could spell doom for everyone. Norik burst out of the cabin, heading toward the bow. Shouts informed him that the crew already struggled to deal with whatever danger threatened, but he knew how difficult their task would be if what he suspected had truly occurred. Bad enough for the ship to suffer damage, but try to repair it during such chaos? A moment later, the worst fears had been realized. Just ahead, several sailors fought to keep one of the masts from entirely cracking into two. They pulled on ropes, trying to force the upper portion in place, while other men attempted to strengthen the ruined area with planks, nails, and more rope. Norik, however, could already tell that theirs had been a struggle in futility. More and more the mast leaned dangerously, and when the wind, the others would surely soon follow. He wanted to do something, but none of the skills he had learned would have been of aid to the experienced mariners. Norik stared at the gauntleted hands, the crimson coloring marking them looked so mighty, so full of strength. Yet all the vaunted power of Bartek's legacy would avail him nothing now. The thought faded as an unsettling blue aura formed without warning around each glove. Norik suddenly found himself rushing forward, the suit again in command of his actions. For once, though, the veteran fought little against it, certain of its intentions, if not its methods. The armor desired to reach its distant destination, and it could not if Norik sank to the bottom of the sea. For Norik's life alone, it needed to act. "Away! Away!" shouted Captain Costco, no doubt certain that his clumsy passenger would only make a terrible situation worse. Norik, though, barged past him, nearly bowling over the crippled mariner. The mast creaked ominously, a sure sign that only seconds remained before it toppled into the next. Norik took a deep breath, anxiously waiting for the suit to act.
Casa Quesaracos.
Lightning punctuated each word thrust from the soldier's mouth, but Norik paid it little mind. What he did notice, what all of those around him also surely noticed, was that several shimmering green forms suddenly surrounded, even clung to the ruined mast. They had strong, sleek arms that ended in suckering fingers, but they should have been legs. The monstrosities had bodies reminiscent of gigantic slugs. The creatures hissed and crawled, their half-seen faces akin to some demented artist's idea of a bat made up like a clown, face painted and all. The sailors fled in panic, releasing their grip on the ropes and wood. The mast started to fall. The shimmering horde pushed it back in place. While some held her there, others started to crawl around and around the ruin area. As they moved, they left trails of slime over the cracks. At first, Norik had no idea what they intended, but noticed that the slime almost immediately hardened. Strengthened and stabilizing the mast over and over, the creatures crawled a madcap race with no finish line. Their brethren no longer needed to support the mast, watched and waited, hissing in what seemed encouragement to the ones circling around the pole.
Quesaracos.
The demons quickly crawled from the mast, grouping together. Norik pulled his gaze from the horrific band, looking over their complete handiwork. Despite the storm, the mast now swayed as if only in a gentle breeze. Not only had they repaired it, but they reinforced it in such a manner that the odds were that it would better survive this voyage than the other two. As if also satisfied, the suit waved a negligent hand at the demons. A burst of light so bright that Norik had to shield his eye covered the foul pack. The creature's hissing grew stronger, harsher, until with what seemed a sigh, the light faded out, leaving no trace of the slug-like beast, not even a single trail of slime.